listening to Bitcoin Live, your number one source of the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, covering news, culture, manic warfare. Will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Wow. So first rebrand intro and drop the ball a little bit, but it's okay. We keep the show rolling, ladies and gentlemen. Also, crazy news. Michael Saylor going on CNBC this morning and dropping the hot fire. He's literally predicting $13 million Bitcoin on legacy financial media. Here's the clip. Check it out.
Of the capital in the world right now. I think it's going to go to 7% of the capital.
7%.
My long-term forecast is it's going to go to 13 million over 21 years.
13 million.
13 million. But what is it 5 years from now? You're in your 4-year calculus.
You know, it's been growing 44% a year with about a 40 to 50 vol. I would think it'll move on at 40%, then click down to 35, then 30, then 25, and at some point it'll be the S&P return plus 8%, and it'll be the S&P vol plus 8% because it's always going to be a more global, open, free capital market.
How is there stuff that's above your pay grade? You're worth billions. I mean, we can say that. It's above our pay grade, but who gets to decide if it's above your pay grade?
He might have been it's below his pay grade.
Right, exactly.
Bitcoin's an expression in this view that you want to invest in an asset without counterparty risk, which means you don't want to be counterparty to a country, a currency, a city, a company, a commodity, or a culture, right? So people think it's a risky thing. It's all about people wanting to not take risk. They don't want to guess whether Picasso's or real estate in New York or NVIDIA stock will be higher in 10 years. They want to buy money. They want to buy 1/21 millionth of all the money in the world forever.
End it there, Michael. Thank you.
Great. Michael, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here joined with my legendary co-host Optimus Fields and our guest for today, Paul from Compass Mining. And starting with the cold opening, I mean, Michael Saylor dropping those $13 million prediction. This is on legacy financial media. They didn't laugh him out of the room. They took him seriously. They're like, wow, like this guy is smart. This guy is for real. And of course, he has the numbers to back it up. MicroStrategy is the best performing stock in the S&P 500 the last 4 years. Outperforming, I know you guys are going to make fun of me of how I pronounce the video. I don't care. I'm from Miami. That's how I'm going to say it. But outperforming NVIDIA, which is nuts. Okay, NVIDIA, whatever. You guys get the point. Outperforming.
It's getting worse.
Outperforming one of the most valuable companies in the world. Makes it's like one of the best GPU manufacturers. Of course, after AI took off, a lot of their products are in need by companies that are developing AI, and MicroStrategy still outperformed them. Imagine if NVIDIA held a portion of their treasury in Bitcoin, like they would have literally they would have literally put a rocket ship behind their stock. And the same applies to all the big tech stocks like Google, Tesla, Apple, all of them. Bitcoin is a superpower. Bitcoin is a cheat code, literally, not only to public companies, I would say also to nation states, but most importantly to individuals as well. So I'm going to pass it on to Paul. Paul, I mean, does that surprise you? Look at how far we've come. Right? Because 5 years ago, if you would have said that on traditional legacy financial media, they would have laughed you out of the room. They wouldn't have aired you. And now it's taken seriously. And I think it's a combination of course, MicroStrategy's proof of work, the performance, also Larry Fink entering the field. We had a video coming out last week of Howard Lupnick from Cantor Fitzgerald, also speaking very positive things about Bitcoin as well. So it looks like we're heading into a new era of Bitcoin's history. Bitcoin's growing up. It's being taken seriously by the legacy financial players, and Michael Saylor's leading the charge. It's crazy. In 21 years, $13 million Bitcoin. So for $56,000 today, that could be worth $13 million in 21 years if Michael Saylor's strategy plays out. By the way, that's not his bull case. His bull case is $49 million per Bitcoin in 21 years, which is absolutely crazy. So, Paul, what's your take on that? Does it surprise you at all?
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I think it's hard to. I don't think you can laugh a guy like Michael Saylor out of the room. You know, he knows what he's doing. He's clearly successful, and like you said, the performance of his stocks over the last few years. If he speaks, people should probably listen. Maybe they'll be a bit skeptical about it, but if you've been in this space for any kind of length of time, like I remember back in 2016 thinking, you know, oh, I missed the boat. Bitcoin is like $1,500. I'm so late to the party, and kind of, you know, look at it now. So no, I think it's definitely worth taking note of. Would I bet my entire family's financial future on it? No, but I wouldn't do that with anything. Would I take it very seriously though, and get myself exposure if I didn't already have it? Yeah, I totally would.
Absolutely. I think it's irresponsible at this point if you're in the legacy financial world, if you're not offering, you know, if you don't have exposure to Bitcoin, even if it's a very, very small percentile, 1% exposure, 2% exposure. I think it's irresponsible at this point not to have some type of exposure to Bitcoin. And I think you're starting to see that, right? There's some news broke that Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, the Wisconsin Pension Fund all have exposure to Bitcoin via the Bitcoin ETF. Not to mention, of course, all the massive ETFs. And it looks like the majority of hedge funds also have some type of exposure either through MicroStrategy or through the ETFs as well. Of course, ideally in an ideal world, in a utopian world, everyone would have spot Bitcoin and self-custody. It looks like they're outsourcing custody to Coinbase. Of course, we don't see that as a good thing, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Opti, how you doing? Optimus Fields, bro. First day with the rebrand on the live show. I'm feeling really, really good. This is worked really, really hard this morning to get all the assets ready for you guys, and still didn't come out perfect, but we get better.
Yeah, you guys couldn't see me, but I was definitely laughing at Nico behind the scenes because he just butchered it. It was great. It was great. Love to see the growing pains. But yeah, on the Saylor clip, I thought you were gonna play. There was another clip, like the full clip here, and I saw American Hodl post it this morning of Saylor on Squawk Box, and just the pure glee that you see from Saylor. There's like, hey man, were you panicking for a while? And he's basically like, no, I was right. Bitcoin's going to the moon. Bitcoin is the only play in the room, and it just really goes to show the progression as a Bitcoiner. Even Michael Saylor and everyone else that gets into Bitcoin, you know, Larry Fink is probably going through this. We're seeing the Trump family go through this. You still have to learn and go through your cost of tuition to understand what's going on in the Bitcoin space. And even if Michael Saylor, you know, billionaire out there buying 1% of the total Bitcoin supply, I'm sure there was moments there where he was even having to rethink his strategy. And now, as we've been saying for a long time, completely vindicated in this strategy, it's becoming completely obvious to all of us Bitcoiners, and soon enough, it'll become obvious to everyone else that you need to have some Bitcoin in your own personal treasure. You need to hold some Bitcoin. This is the only way to actually survive and thrive through the next 10, 20 years. And so love to see that Saylor is going on corporate press saying the same things he's saying on the Bitcoin conference, and it's being received well. So as much as we are all feeling the pain, of 50K Bitcoin, and we are kind of looked at as crazy people because we're making $1 million. Like the predictions just keep getting higher and higher. So bull-tarded AF. Let's see what happens when the price starts running. You love to see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, everybody. We will play you the clip from American Hodl. We'll have that saved up for you guys during the numbers segment so we can react to it. And I love Hodl's post to it, Hodl's take to it, which is golden as well. So stay tuned. But before we do that, I do want to give a very special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, BitcoinWell.com. It's the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Buy real Bitcoin. Enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the USA. Every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well points, and you could redeem those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. So we're going to do that for you guys right now. We're going to toss a coin into the Bitcoin Wishing Well for an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. So get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code, bada bing, bada boom, has an opportunity to win today's jackpot, and it is 500 sats. I think last week on 2 days, we hit two 21,000 sat jackpots. By the way, if you use promo code simplybtc, again, simplybtc, to sign up to bitcoinwell.com today, you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin Wishing Well for an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. All right, everybody, I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Usually when you buy a hardware wallet, it comes with a piece of paper and it's labeled 1 through 12 or 1 through 24, and you're meant to write down your seed words on that piece of paper. Problem is that paper is prone to water damage. It's definitely going to catch on fire probably, and your dog could eat it. So you don't want to store your generational wealth on paper. That's why we recommend the Stampseed. It is a titanium seed phrase storage kit. Comes with the hammer, comes with the letter stamping tools, it comes with the literal plates, and you could literally proof of work stamp your seed letter by letter into a piece of titanium that's going to stand the test of time. This is how you're meant to store your generational wealth. And if you use promo code SIMPLY, you get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com website. All right, everybody, let's get to numbers. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 56,120. Sats per dollar coming out of the depths of hell. Sats per dollar, 1,782. Block height, 860,641. Blocks to halving, 189,359. Halving estimate, March 22nd, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity, 4,935 BTC. Capacity value, 277 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation, 1.39%. Market capitalization, 1.11 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 6.41%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started. Anyways, I'm so glad that Opti brought this up so we can react to it, because it was a legendary post from a legendary Bitcoiner, of course, the American HODL. And of course, what he says is, what cool moment. It feels weird to be proud of a billionaire, but in Bitcoin terms, I'm a big bro to Michael. His HODL journey has been very public and just as emotional, full of turmoil as the rest of us. I completely agree. I never forget this. I'm class of 2016, by the way. So is Opti. Class of 2016, 2017, around the same era, same epoch. And Michael Saylor's class of 2020. So you have to pay your dues. Like, of course, Michael Saylor has much more purchasing power. And he has a giant public company that he could leverage to buy more Bitcoin. He could borrow against it. But you still have to pay your price of tuition. Remember, Bitcoin doesn't give special privileges. So Michael had to buy spot Bitcoin over a long period of time, just like the rest of us. And what tends to happen is the first epoch, that is the most painful. Because most people get into Bitcoin in the bull, right? You get in when the price is flying, and you get absolutely wrecked. And that's why we call it paying the price of tuition. And I remember Pacific Bitcoin 2021, Michael Saylor sitting in the front row. The price of Bitcoin is at 16,000. His average buy price is 30,000. So he's down 50%. But remember, he bought billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And he just had a stone cold face, right? And then, of course, the price climbed out of the depths of hell, and it peaked at 60 something thousand, and it went up to 72,000, and now we're kind of going sideways until the next leg up, and he's been vindicated. But this is a journey that we've all been through, especially if you've been here a couple cycles. The only difference is that for Saylor, he is a public figure, so he went through what we've all been through. Those texts that you get from friends and family. Like, I got a text from my mom's been in Bitcoin for 8 years now. Hey, Mom. And I swear to God, like, I still get texts from my mom saying, why is Bitcoin going down? She's been asking me that for 8 years. Now I just reply, it's going to zero. That's all. Now I used to like explain and like whatever. Now I just say it's going to zero. But you know, imagine the text that he must have been getting. Imagine the pressure that he must have been feeling from his shareholders. So anyways, HODL goes on to say his HODL journey has been very public and just as emotional and full of turmoil as the rest of us. Michael was peers with Bezos. He was one of the longest reigning tech CEOs from the dot-com bubble onwards. Except unlike Bezos, he was overlooked. His company left to chug along for decades, neither taking over the world nor exploding in infamy. Just a solid company that existed in relative obscurity to most of the population. It must have bothered Michael somewhat, because you could tell that he is just as smart and calculating as his famous peers who've gotten all the headlines over the last 25 years. To them, he's like the rest of us Bitcoiners, a bit of a misfit, someone who fell through the cracks. After years of patience, he can now confidently sit in the CNBC studio and declare to the talking heads and the world direct to their face, yes, I was right. Yes, I am beating metaphorically all of you, and that's the redemptive power of Bitcoin. Whether you're a billionaire or a pleb, you have the ability to hit a hard reset and take your rightful place at the table. In many ways, large and small, Bitcoin is about renegotiating your place in the world. Oh, man. Freaking HODL coming in hot. Anyways, here's the clip.
You have a lot of courage because there's been a lot of major swings in the past. And there were times when I was worried. Can you tell me, were you ever close to margin calls? Anything ever happening to MicroStrategy?
Well, when Silvergate Bank failed, we had to redeem that, but it turned out to be a benefit for us. We made a lot of money on that redemption. We repaid our Silvergate loan. But it's been a great journey. Since August 10th of 2020, MicroStrategy's bought about $8.3 billion worth of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's up 44% a year on average since then. The S&P's up 12%. And since we levered it, we're up 825%. The number one performing stock in the S&P is NVIDIA, up 821% as of Friday. So we beat every single company in the S&P index using a Bitcoin strategy.
So, I mean,
you have a lot of courage.
Like, yeah, I mean, taking the victory lap. Paul, what's your take on all this?
So, like, I mean, my thoughts on it are, I think he's had a similar journey to all of us. Like you said, we've all been through that thing with the parents texting you, with friends thinking you're nuts, all that kind of stuff. My kind of early journey in it, doing a bit of trading with what kind of amounts of money I could afford to lose. It was easy in the sense of it was easy to, not get overly emotionally involved in a trade. But once I started making a bit of money doing it and making bigger trades, it got a lot more difficult because it was a lot harder to keep my emotions in check. So I can only imagine what he went through, given the amount of money we're talking about when it comes to him, how difficult that was for him. But I think it pretty much echoes, just on a much larger scale, the same journey that a lot of us have actually gone through.
100%. It's just magnified. It's multiplied, just because he had a lot more purchasing power when he got in, right? Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Yeah, just kind of echoing what Paul was saying. I think in relative terms, most Bitcoiners all feel kind of very similar emotions in regards to the Bitcoin price roller coaster, especially if you're just an average person of average means. Whatever you put into Bitcoin is probably a decent investment for yourself. And if you are on the Michael Saylor's level of the world, they're also doing the same thing. What Saylor always say, we always say the same thing. All 8 billion people on planet Earth have the same problem, and there's nothing to save in. We can't save in dollars. And so everyone is looking at the same playing field. And once you understand Bitcoin, once it clicks in your mind, you realize the game. You are trying to protect whatever wealth you do have in Bitcoin. And until you fully understand the cycles, the full technicals of the network, what's actually going on in the macro landscape, you still probably get a little nervous when you get these price fluctuations. And then you get to the point where all of us get to the point, at least here on Simply Bitcoin and all of our friends on Twitter, where you find that Bitcoin Zen and price drops are just Bitcoin on sale. If you like Bitcoin at all-time highs, you're going to love them at all-time lows because you just get more sats for the purchasing power that you are putting into Bitcoin. So I think we all have the same game that plays out in our head until you fully understand what's going on, until you fully understand what is actually happening with Bitcoin, and you realize that Bitcoin is the stable coin, that Bitcoin is the one thing that you want to save in, where again, we're all playing the same game and it's trying to protect whatever wealth you do have. And yes, until you understand that game, price fluctuations do scare you. And then after a certain point, it's just like, yeah, whatever. I get sats for cheap. Bitcoin's on sale. This is great. As I've said in the past, once the price drops and you get to this point, it's like, it's beautiful. You're like, yes, I get more sats. And then once the price starts ripping, it's a little bittersweet. And you're like, man, this is awesome. My wealth is going up in relative terms and purchasing power, but I'm also now buying less sats. So you're like, man, this sucks. So once you get to that point, then I think the real game starts playing out that I always say. It's you're playing Hungry Hippo with Bitcoin. You're playing Pac-Man. You want to acquire and accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. And even the billionaires of the world are starting to learn this. And I think we're seeing this play out right now with the Michael Dell, not Mike Odell, Michael Dell of Dell. I think he's kind of playing that game right now. You see him kind of teasing Bitcoin and tweeting some Bitcoin Twitter stuff, but he's playing a smart game. Instead of doing what Saylor does, where he was basically our billionaire cheerleader, he's keeping his cards close to his chest because he's still probably trying to accumulate and get some wealth out of the traditional financial world. So everyone goes through the same learning curve in Bitcoin, and it doesn't matter. Like American Hodl was saying, whether you're a billionaire or you're a pleb, whether you're have the most money in the world or just trying to save whatever you're saving, we have an equal playing field, and it's trying to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible. And the emotions that play out inside of you, they're all the same. And this is why we always tell everyone the best move on the chessboard is just do nothing. Just acquire Bitcoin, take it into custody, make sure your cash flow is coming in so you can acquire more Bitcoin. This is the game being played out right now, and the world is slowly but surely catching on.
100%. Anyways, before we move on to the news segment, I do want us to react to this post. By the way, guys, I went down the Nostr rabbit hole this weekend, and it reminds me of the early days of when I got into Bitcoin and going down the initial Bitcoin rabbit hole. Like, what this protocol is going to enable is mind-blowing, because you have to understand you can build on top of that. So Primal and Damus, they have very kind of Twitter-esque type of interfaces, but you can essentially build whatever you want on top of it, and it's just full of possibilities. And the reason I'm going down this rabbit hole is because I'm trying to figure out an effective way of uploading the Simply Bitcoin show onto Nostr, but it's different because it's a protocol. It's not a centralized platform where there's a server. So still trying to figure that out. Anyways, I do want us to react to this post by Jeff Booth. He said, what would be the primary rule of a, quote, rules-based international order sitting on top of a money that steals from people? That is a very, very deep, message. And one of the things that blew my mind every single time that Jeff Booth came on the show was he talks about it. He's like, Nico, if there's a system that's based on theft, coercion is necessary. And if coercion is necessary, censorship is necessary. So it all kind of stems, like it all starts to explain all these things, because think about it. If people truly knew how money worked, if people actually knew that money could exist that doesn't have inflation, is in fact deflationary, I think people would start to ask some very difficult question of their governments. Right. So, that's a very, very, mind-opening post from Jeff Booth. Like, what is an international based order if the base layer that the society is using is corrupted and it's based on theft? I think that's, it makes you ask some very important questions. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Paul and then Opti.
Yeah, it does raise a lot of very serious questions. I think part of the problem is that we, as well, maybe not so much us in the audience here, but people in general are so conditioned to accepting the current state of things that they don't ask these questions. And when someone does, or when they hear the answers to them, they find themselves nearly in disbelief that this kind of thing could be going on at such a large level.
Absolutely, 100%. Opti, real quick, your take before we get on to the news.
Yeah, well, just answering Jeff Booth's question, it would fundamentally overturn the status quo of the world right now, and everything would change. And this is why we say all the time, as Bitcoiners, fix the money, fix the world. The status quo that we live right now is extracting, or rather the elites on the top, the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, are extracting as much wealth out of the citizenry as possible. And there's a lot of, I would argue, waste in that system. And once people are able to retain their purchasing power and store as much as their capital as possible, I argue that the world would be better. And this is what we're seeing play out. Hence why we're seeing so many attacks on Bitcoin, because they don't want people saving in something that doesn't steal from them, because it does fundamentally change the way the world works right now. So this is the game being played out. We're seeing capital leave the traditional financial sector and move into Bitcoin. And this game is probably going to play out for the next decade or two. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, once Bitcoin gets a big price movement, people are going to start waking up. Everyone has the same kind of learning curve in Bitcoin, where you start chasing the Bitcoin price as it goes up, because you're like, oh, the FOMO of, the fear of missing out. And I think this is what we're going to see happen in real time. And with that is kind of what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, that with that will come different attack vectors of trying to co-opt this Bitcoin network, trying to co-opt the movement. And it's important for us to stay vigilant, because things will fundamentally change. Again, fix the money, fix the world. Everything is downstream from the money. And if we're moving on to a different money standard, things are going to change for the better, I would argue.
100%. Guys, if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, Rumble, or X, make sure to smash the like button. Really, really helps with the algos and pushing the orange signal forward. So again, smash the like button. It takes 2 seconds. And of course, let's move on to a news segment. Guys, we have so much content for you guys left, so stay tuned. Let's check it out. Here we go. Special shout out to our sponsor, Compass Mining. They make Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone, from beginners to experienced investors. Their turnkey miners gets you online and hashing within 48 hours, making it easier than ever to start your mining journey. Plus, with their active marketplace, you can resell your miner at any time, adding flexibility and value to your investment. Visit their website to access a wealth of resources, learning everything you need to know about Bitcoin mining. Take your first step into the world of Bitcoin mining with confidence. Discover more at compassmining.io. Again, compassmining.io, and see how Compass Mining can power your success. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US, and it integrates seamlessly with their free app called Envoy. Passport is fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a classic feature phone, so you'll know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. It's also air-gapped, meaning Bitcoin stays offline, never touching an internet connection. It's Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, air-gap security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes with Passport at foundation.xyz/simply. Get peace of mind for your piece of Bitcoin. All right, everybody, I do want to take advantage of the fact that Paul is here, and let's talk a little bit about what is going on in the mining world. So the difficulty, the hash rate continues to go up, continues to make just all-time highs. Hash rate is a representation of the amount of computational power that is actively mining the Bitcoin network. You want the hash rate to go up. Theoretically, the higher the hash rate, the higher Bitcoin security, the harder it becomes to computationally attack. And it continues to go up despite the halving, despite it being one of the toughest moments to mine in Bitcoin's history. And also despite the difficulty reaching all-time highs as well, right? And you're not only seeing this, the hash rate isn't just indicating this, but if you put together some news articles, we'll go through them right now, specifically this one from Bloomberg, Bhutan to upgrade Bitcoin mining in Himalayas as halving looms. So that's super crazy. And specifically the numbers is, I believe they upgraded from the planned upgrades will increase the Himalayan kingdom's mining capacity by 500 megawatts. They started with 100 megawatts, I might add, and they upgraded it right before the halving. So they knew that the rewards were literally going to get cut in half, but they upgraded their mining capacity regardless. And that just tells me that the Kingdom of Bhutan and all these public miners and miners in general are very optimistic and bullish about Bitcoin's future because they're putting their money where their mouth is, literally. So the headline here in Bloomberg is Bhutan to upgrade Bitcoin mining in Himalayas as halving looms. Here is an article by Bitcoin Magazine. Japan's largest power company, TEPCO, is mining Bitcoin using renewables. Like, that's crazy. Can you imagine the largest power company of a nation, Japan? So it's a very, very developed nation, very wealthy nation, is using excess energy, keyword there, excess energy to mine Bitcoin themselves. Like, that is bonkers. And of course, El Salvador came out that El Salvador mined nearly 474 Bitcoins, adding to state crypto holdings in the last 3 years alone. So this is a worldwide phenomenon. Despite the rewards going down, despite the difficulty continuing to go up, despite the hash rate continuing to go up, it seems like people all over the world continue to want to mine. And I'm going to pass it on to Paul. Paul, what do you see here? Like, why is this happening? It almost sounds like counterintuitive, right? Like, mining less Bitcoin, it's harder to mine Bitcoin, but people still keep doubling down mining Bitcoin. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, I suppose a lot of that probably comes back to, I mean, we're looking at, Michael Saylor talking earlier. A lot of it comes down to people's belief in where Bitcoin is going to end up. Like, they're willing to accept the short-term risk and in some cases loss if they're mining at a loss for that kind of medium to long-term gain. So, there's going to be financial kind of incentives for that, and then there's also going to be an element of tribalism because people believe in Bitcoin and what that kind of looks like to the world in a sense of equality. So the kind of behavior that you're seeing now is the kind of behavior we saw back in 2020 as well. We set up Compass just kind of after the last halving in 2020, and for a while things were kind of slow, but then it really started kicking off, and as soon as the next kind of bull market took off, I mean, that was it. Everyone who had bought their miners in that repressed kind of bear market, then, they mined for a year, 2 years, sold their miners for 4 or 5 times what they bought them with, and kept all the Bitcoin that they mined. So there is some smart thinking in it. If you look at the purchase of that kind of mining equipment, somewhat like a trade that you would make.
Absolutely. And do you think and you what you're suggesting is that these miners, these nation states, these companies, like, that's essentially what they're betting on. They're betting on essentially is the future price appreciation of Bitcoin, and they're positioning themselves to take advantage of that upcoming wave. And just to kind of give you guys an idea, like, the 500, like, how much, just to explain it, because I think the number doesn't give it justice. How much is 500 megawatts, Paul, of mining?
I mean, some kind of off the napkin kind of maths here. You're talking 250,000 machines. You know, each one of those could cost, depending on the kind of model, anywhere from, you know, $500, $1,000 for old gens, all the way up to 5,000 for a new gen. So it's a significant investment, whatever way you look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's your take on the nation states like mining Bitcoin? So of course we know El Salvador is Bitcoin country, but this news came out about 7 hours ago. Japan's largest power company, TEPCO, is mining Bitcoin using renewables. Do you see that trend continuing moving forward? Do you see more nation states actively mining Bitcoin using using excess energy?
Absolutely. I mean, you see the financial institutions like Cantor and that getting, you know, into Bitcoin. Obviously, Saylor is pretty double down into it. There's no reason to think that those kind of nation states, beyond what we currently know, would not follow that trend. I think they can all see the writing on the wall. It's way past the point of, oh, we can ignore this stupid Bitcoin geek thing. Like that's just not a thing anymore. It's a serious thing. And I think they're all starting to wake up to it and realize, oh, we don't want to miss the boat. So I think it's FOMO, but on a national and international level.
Yeah, and at what point does this like snowball? Like at what point is like every, you know, nation state in the world and, you know, these large energy companies, because I see like energy companies and Bitcoin mining, like I feel like that's a match made in heaven. Like what do you anticipate over the next 5 to 10 years?
It is. I think there will be much more of an openness from energy companies to realize, oh, all this excess energy that we're producing and we can't do anything with, we can actually let these guys use it. You know, it's good for us. It's good for the grid. It's pretty much a win-win situation for everybody. So the more of them that open themselves up to that possibility, then the better it's just going to be.
Why do you think that there has been some type of negative press regarding Bitcoin mining's energy usage? And do you think that, like, I mean, to me, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that like people are putting their money where their mouth is. Like the hash rate continues to grow, so clearly that negative press is not doing anything. But what do you think the motivations behind that press is? Is it perhaps a misunderstanding of what Bitcoin mining is? Is it a little bit more malicious to reference Jeff Booth's post? What's your take on that, Paul?
My personal take on it is probably old money fearing what Bitcoin represents and trying to figure out a way to undermine it at its very core and try to turn kind of people against it. To be perfectly honest, because once you look into the arguments that are kind of made about, you know, Bitcoin mining boiling the ocean and its energy use, you realize, oh, well, it's energy that was going to be wasted anyway in a very large amount of the cases. So that's kind of my take on it. I may be wrong, but
Absolutely. Opti, do you have any thoughts or questions for Paul?
Well, I have one question, but I think I'm going to save that one for the culture. So just kind of adding to this, we've seen very recently and just kind of, you know, doubling down on that meme, that the global hash war is playing out in real time. So what's your thoughts on that meme of global hash war? And are we actually seeing this, or is this us Bitcoiners with confirmation bias and you know, being really bullish on that meme and like, it's happening, guys? We like to get really bull-tarded in regards to Bitcoin. So do you see personally a global hash war playing out, or maybe the soft war thesis playing out? Like, what's your thoughts on that idea?
I don't know if a war is the correct word for it. That sounds a little aggressive, but I do think that you're going to see you're going to see people scrambling to position themselves as best as they can, and like with Japan and some of the other places that you've named, anyone who's not doing it over the next few years, they're probably going to want to get on board. Even if for no other reason than, oh, everyone else is doing it, we better do this. We may not see the point in it, but like, we're going to be missing out.
Well, actually, I have one more question, and I love this idea. It's the idea that Bitcoin miners will soon become the energy producers of the world, and the energy producers will obviously become Bitcoin miners. So what's your thoughts on that synthesis? Are Bitcoin miners going to become the energy producers of the world, or do you think it'll be more of a symbiotic relationship where energy producers will need a Bitcoin mining strategy?
I think it would be much more symbiotic. I think there's room for both to coexist, and that's actually where it works best. It works best for the environment. It works best for miners. It works best for people who just live in places and need electricity. Like, what a lot of people don't realize is the grid stability that Bitcoin mining adds to any grid is good for those people who aren't involved in Bitcoin, who just live on that grid. So that symbiosis is the key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the synergy. Anyways. All right, everybody. Before we move on to the culture. Why is Opti laughing?
I don't know. I didn't think you were trying to pun it, but it turned out to be a good pun. Synergy.
Does it make sense? I don't know.
Anyway,
guys, if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to help us smash that like button. Help us break 100 likes within the first hour of the show. If you guys are enjoying it on YouTube, Rumble, and X. All right, everybody, let's get on to the culture. Talk about Compass Mining. Also talk about Paul. Let's check it out. Here we go. All right, everybody, before we talk to Paul, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats. Join the 12,233 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. The Orange Pill app is the Bitcoin social layer. It's a #1 resource for Bitcoin-only events. It's a great way to connect with other Bitcoiners. So if you're traveling, you're on the go, you don't know anyone around you, pull up the Orange Pill app. It has a really cool geographical feature, and it will literally show you the Bitcoiners that are near you, and it allows you to send them a message directly, connecting with them. So download the Orange Pill app today. It's one of the best ways to reach me. You could send me a DM. I'll get back to every single one of you guys. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. So anyways, Paul, so happy to have you on the show today. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we did pick up a new sponsor. We picked up Compass Mining. So Paul, I do want to give you the floor. What is Compass Mining?
Thanks. So yeah, Compass Mining, we sell the hardware that's needed for mining Bitcoin. We also sell space in data centers for hosting that hardware. So there's no real MOQ on it. You can order 1 unit, you can order 100 units. We cater to retail and the small miners. We also cater to much larger industrial level kind of mining. And that's kind of the basic offering of where it started. We also have a marketplace where you can sell your miner and your hosting contract on to someone else. And we now, in the last, I suppose, recent year or so, we have kind of expanded more into the managed services aspect of it as well. So anyone who was looking to maybe have their own facility, maybe improve their facility or build out, or thinking about getting into Bitcoin mining on a larger scale, we have some kind of bespoke offerings for them as well. And that's kind of pretty much what we do.
Gotcha. And what's your role in the company?
So currently I'm the CEO. I started life as one of the co-founders and the CTO. And kind of back then my job was building out our marketplace, and any of the technical stuff we needed. And now it's kind of the day-to-day running of the company.
Amazing. And Paul, I have to ask this question because let's talk about Compass's past, right? And I think a lot of people already in the chat are wondering this, right? There were some controversies, a couple years ago. The company was under different leadership. And I guess my question to you is, what has changed? Why should people trust Compass today? What makes it different? Paul.
Yeah, fair question. So I suppose, going back to 2020, 2021, we were very much an early stage startup in growth mode. And when the kind of bull market kicked off, then we grew pretty fast, and we made a lot of mistakes along the way. You know, some of them were avoidable, some of them weren't avoidable. They happened. And like, I suppose companies, especially new startups, they need different styles of leadership at different points in their growth. And the old leadership was very much necessary back then. I would never kind of take away from them the contributions that they did, but you know, it came to a point where a new style of kind of running the company was needed, and it was more focused on less on growth and more on kind of customer care and identifying all the pain points that we had seen from our customers, and really kind of looking at where things went wrong previously so that we don't repeat those mistakes again.
Gotcha. And what is the roadmap? Let's talk about the future. What do you guys see, not only in the Bitcoin mining industry, but also just the future of future of Compass, the next 5 to 10 years?
So the future of Compass is pretty much directly linked to the lessons we have learned from the past. And, you know, when we started out, we were very asset light. We worked with a lot of partner facilities. And what ended up happening was our customers, some of them had good experiences, some of them had bad experiences. And while some of that was on us, it was difficult for us when we passed off things to our partners. Now, nowadays we have some great partners, but as we kind of grow and evolve, the problems that were inherent in that kind of partnership model, we seek to minimize now. So our whole growth plan for the future is aligned with vertical integration and trying to control all levels of that stack. And that is all kind of, it all feeds into the customer or end customer having the kind of experience that I want them to have, and not just an okay experience or a bad experience. So everything we're doing growing into the future, it's all around vertical integration and, you know, being able to control the entire kind of stack, from everything from repairs to actual, you know, being the boots on the ground in facilities, so that if customers have problems, we can address their stuff, you know, within a few hours. We can get things repaired really fast. We have all these kind of capabilities in-house now, whereas previously we relied on external parties to do a lot of that.
Gotcha. And one of the things that I really liked about too, and like I had to do the ad read, but one of the things that popped out to me, Paul, which was, and one of the things that, you know, I initially got into the industry through mining, right? I set up, you know, you guys everyone goes through this, right? You set up the mining thing in your home, and then one of the rooms in your home gets really hot and really loud, and then it's on, hopefully it's on the other side, but you know, eventually you come to the realization of like, okay, probably it's not a good idea to do this at my house. I should probably do this somewhere else. But you kind of go down this rabbit hole, and one of the things that popped up to me mining myself is the importance of being able to sell your miners, right? Because it's not only just about mining them. Eventually you want to sell the miners and perhaps upgrade to new machines. And one of the things that you guys offer, Opti, you can scroll to it, which is you guys offer marketplace.
Yeah. So the marketplace was one of the things that we really wanted to have out there. We launched that, that was around kind of mid to late 2021. We got the marketplace online, and we really wanted the ability, because a lot of people are thinking they're going to buy this thing, they're going to get stuck in a 3-year hosting contract. I don't know if I like it, you know, what if it doesn't work out? So we wanted them to have the ability, if they wanted to get out, but also like I said, those kind of people who buy miners in a kind of repressed bear market, what we see happen is they can mine with those, and then in a bull market, they can flip those miners on the marketplace, and it's kind of win-win for them. They get to mine, and they get to sell something for significantly more than they bought it for.
Absolutely, absolutely. I never forget 2017, which was the era of the S9. And Paul, I'm sure you remember this era. And I never forget. I think I bought one S9 for like $1,500. It was a lot cheaper back then. And then at the peak of the bull market in December of 2017, I think I was able to sell it for like $2,500. Even though it was selling, it was mining less Bitcoin. So yeah, that at the marketplace is really cool. And the other thing I want to ask you about is the turnkey stuff. So you get a miner up within 48 hours. So could you walk people through the process? Let's say they go to compassmining.io right now and they want to start mining. What are they gonna what should they expect? Is it also tailored for someone who's an amateur, someone who's new to the industry, or do they need some type of expertise?
So there's no need for any sort of expertise. They could go onto the website, they could create an account, they could buy one of these turnkey miners, and they give us their pool information, and within 48 hours, that miner will be mining to their pool. So there's no need for any more expertise beyond that. The only thing I will say is a lot of people, and I mean, this may sound weird for me to say, but a lot of people get into mining without understanding that they are really mining. This is a real machine. It can break. Facilities sometimes have to curtail, which means we have to turn the miners off. There's a lot that goes into mining that I want them to be aware of before they do this and not feel hard done by after the fact. Because a lot of people sometimes they can think, oh, it's like some cloud contract. I bought a machine and it's 100 terahash is meant to be its power rating, and this is only at 97 terahash. That's the way they come from the factory. There is inbuilt variances. Sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower. Sometimes facilities have to curtail. Sometimes a hash board or a power supply goes down. Your miner is going to be offline for a little while that gets fixed. Those are kind of the realities of really mining. And that's why we put such an emphasis on all of our educational content, because we want people to know that before they get involved in this. And then, they don't understand, well, this was only online for a week and it's down. What's going on? And it could be just that the facility has to curtail for a few hours every day at certain peak periods in time. But I think all of it comes down to just education and understanding what it is that you're doing and not jumping in too fast.
Yeah, and it's the maintenance stuff is interesting, and that's something that you guys provide. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we can do repairs in-house. Depending on the type of repair can depend, how long it takes. If it's a fan that needs to be replaced, it can be done very quickly. If it's a hash board that needs to be replaced, that could take longer.
Gotcha. And how's the monitoring of it, right? So I'm assuming you'll be able to see the sats coming in. That's one of my favorite things about mining, right? You see the sat flow coming in, and you see how much you're making, on a daily basis. That's all stuff that you'll be able to monitor as a customer, as a user.
Absolutely. So when your miner is configured, it's mining to your pool. We're never taking custody of your sats. They're going directly to your pool account that you signed up for, and that's all on you. So you'll get to see them coming in as the pool pays out. You'll get to see them coming into your wallet, and at the very least, you can log into your pool account and see them accumulating there.
I love that. Opti, do you have any questions for Paul?
I got one question. We've had a lot of miners on the last week or so, and I've been asking them the same question because I had a lot of friends that had, they went really deep in the Bitcoin mining space, and it was like the peak of the bear market. And so my question for all the miners right now is, we're seeing hash price go up. We're seeing the competitiveness in the Bitcoin space continue to proliferate. So the question is very simple. Paul, do you see the Bitcoin mining bull run coming soon? Will it return? What's your thoughts on the Bitcoin bull mining run coming?
So, I mean, going off previous kind of cycles, I would say, yeah, it's going to return. And, if you want me to make a prediction just for the hell of it, I would say within the next, what are we now, September, I'd say late this year, early next year, things are going to start coming back.
I completely agree. I think that's like everyone's feeling it. Everyone got. I think we shot a little bit early, just because of the ETF news coming, and we've just kind of been in this consolidation period. But yeah, if Bitcoin continues to follow its prior cycles, I think we should definitely see fireworks end of Q4 this year, heading into 2025. I think 2025 is going to be an amazing year, and I never forget. I have a good friend of mine, who recently was just made CEO of Bitfarms, Ben Gagnon, and the way that he described it to me was mining is a leverage long. So in the year of 2025, that's a very good position to be if you're a miner. So you're dealing with the pain right now, for the fireworks down the road. That's it.
Miners are they're the guys who really believe in Bitcoin and its future, because a lot of the time they can be mining at a loss or just breaking even, but they still keep going. And yeah.
I wish I stay. I say this to Opti all the time, because I pivoted. I got into the industry via mining, and then 2018 just like wrecked me, and I just closed up shop. And then 2019 I got into media, and then looking back, I'm like, why didn't I just why didn't I just stay in it 2018, 2019? And it would have been such a great payoff. But
that's it. It's like the boring, slow and steady way, but like it just kind of, gets there in the end.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Anyways, Paul, we are getting to the top of the show. I want to give you an opportunity for any final thoughts to the 1,538 people that are currently watching live between YouTube, Rumble, and X. Do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
Final thoughts, as far as Compass Mining goes, please go to the website, check us out. Please educate yourself with our content and everyone else's on what mining is. But aside from that, keep hodling, and it's going to be an interesting year next year, I think. And yeah, we're all going to be able to turn around to everyone and say, "See, we were right."
Like what Saylor did on CNBC. Guys, you could find a link to Compass Mining in our show notes, and we're super, super happy to be partnering up with them. And I do want to thank the CEO, Paul, for coming on the show today. Opti, do you have any final words? Do you have any final words, Opti?
No, man. Good Monday. I do have final words, Nico, but it's completely off topic. The new transitions are lit. I'm like, yo, this looks great. And then again, guys, give me a little time. I'm working on the back end. I think we're going to have some new facelifts for the stream that you're going to really enjoy, but I got to figure out some logistics here. But the new transitions are great.
Yeah, and shout out, of course, to the entire Simply Bitcoin crew for making this possible. You guys know who you are. Anyways, guys, if you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. Share this content. Get the orange signal forward. I want to give a shout out to our guest, Paul from Compass Mining. Of course, my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, for joining us today. We are Simply Bitcoin Live tomorrow. We'll see you guys on the next one tomorrow. Peace out, everybody.
You by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.